You guys hear me now? All right, looks like we had some microphone technical difficulties there, so I apologize. I'm trying to work off a new microphone here. It's not working, so give me 1 second. We're going over the severe threat for tomorrow. Just give me 1 second to get my microphone to see if it can load up again. All right, can you guys hear me? That can be a no. All right, so I guess my microphone is not going to work on my phone, so I'll go ahead and operate off this one. All right, so we do have a severe threat for tomorrow. Wait, the microphone was working? I'm just going to go ahead and roll off this microphone, so I do apologize. So we have a severe threat for tomorrow that's in place for areas from Mount Pleasant all the way over to Saginaw. In areas south, we do have a low-end severe threat to the north there into the Roscommon, Gaylord, Traverse City, Alpena, and Sheboygan up there in the northern mitten. But for the most part, we expect the majority of the severe weather tomorrow to be south, again, right along Mount Pleasant, Saginaw, and the yellow areas there. If I go ahead and switch out and give you guys the overall threat, the main hazard with this setup is going to be wind. So the potential for wind tomorrow is going to be the highest, followed by hail, and then the tornado threat is quite low tomorrow, although that may change in the morning if we can get a little bit better idea of the atmospheric conditions. But for right now, the tornado threat is low for tomorrow. This is going to be mainly a wind threat. So on the screen here, you have what has driven the slight risk, which is the yellow area is wind. If I go back here and load up the tornadic area, you guys can see the tornadic threat right here. This is the green area. So if you're south of Grand Rapids, south of Lansing, and then south of Detroit there. So Ann Arbor, Coldwater, Kalamazoo, you guys are in a 2%, which is the lowest percent of a tornado tomorrow. So quite low, although that, again, that may change. It's just the low level wind shear tomorrow isn't the greatest. So if we have an increase in that, we'll have to keep an eye on that. But right now, again, the tornado risk is low. And then the last threat we're going to go over here is the hail threat. It is 5%, so not a huge hail threat tomorrow, but it does exist across much of the severe weather area. So if we look at the model here, we're going to look and go ahead and switch out to the model. There we go. It should be brought up. So tomorrow is expected to be kind of like yesterday, where we have some uncertainty with how storms are going to evolve and form throughout the day. So we have a couple scenarios that could happen. The first one being what we saw yesterday could happen again tomorrow, where we have this morning round of showers and storms that push across Lake Michigan towards the western part of the state in the early morning hours. If that happens, a similar setup to yesterday may occur. But here's the kicker. Tomorrow's instability is forecasted to be a lot higher than what yesterday's was. So we're going to have, for some of you who follow the page, we have a heat advisory for our far southwestern counties. And we're also going to have a lot of rich, deep moisture. So the couple of the heat and the moisture is going to create a atmosphere that is very unstable. So it's going to be a very, very heavy environment. You're going to walk outside, you're going to feel the humidity, you're going to feel the heat. It's going to be very oppressive tomorrow. So the combination of the heat and humidity sparks unstable conditions, but here's the thing, it's going to be all day. Even if we get storms, we're going to have that heat linger around. So there could be a little bit more instability to work with if we do have a first round of storms come through. That is scenario one. Scenario one also entails a second round that could come through in the evening time, and depicted on the models here. I'll go ahead and run this one through in the evening time. If we go ahead and flip back to the 18Z run, which is the 2 p.m. run, that comes out this afternoon. And if we skip ahead here to the Friday evening time frame, we have storms firing over Wisconsin late evening, 7 o'clock here, and this pushes toward Lake Michigan around the 8 to 9 o'clock time frame, crossing the lake and impacting West Michigan. So that is scenario one. We could have a round of showers in the morning. It clears out in the day. We have a second round coming later on. That's round one, or scenario one, should I say. Scenario two is being picked up by a few models, and it's definitely a possibility. Again, this could go either way. Scenario two is where we don't have widespread rain or no rain at all in the morning hours. And if that is the case, the severe threat in the evening would be a much higher severe event. If that's the case, I wouldn't be surprised if the SPC went ahead and issued an enhanced risk for the wind, just because looking at some of these models and some of the way the jet stream is lined up and the wind shear in place, it could be a pretty high-end wind event. So I would not be surprised if the enhanced is issued. It's just going to be a lot of moving parts again tomorrow. And also we have some uncertainties with, again, MCV placement, which is, we talked about yesterday, a localized area of spin, which could enhance wind shear, wind gusts, and also tornadic potential. So again, there's a lot of uncertainty there. So I have to wait until the morning hours play out tomorrow to kind of get a better idea of what's to come. So timing on this. So the first round of storms, again, the models show anywhere from 8 a.m. all the way through the afternoon. We have cells popping up. Like, for example, on this model here, we'll go ahead and run it through the morning hours. So we have some showers and storms at 5 a.m. up in northern Michigan. We have some cells developing along 94 down there, Kalamazoo, Battle Creek, Coldwater. This is 7 o'clock in the morning. We have a secondary little bit of round coming through on the west side there right around noon. So this model is picking up that we could have multiple chances of rain through the morning. And with the instability in place, these will have potential to be severe. So severe storms may be occurring in the morning hours as well. It doesn't have to be at the peak heating of the day. We're going to have the instability there in the morning hours to get these storms juiced and going. Again, the higher threat for severe will be in the afternoon and evening when the peak heating is there, just because that's when better dynamics exist. But just because we have that large amount of instability, these storms may be severe early on in the day. So with that being said, timing, again, could be as early as 8 a.m. for some people, and it could be as late as, the late evening. Well, again, it's going to be dependent on when storms fire, if they fire. So with that being said, I'll take some questions here. The threats for tomorrow will be wind and hail primarily. Wind is going to be the very big concern. It could be a pretty big wind event if this plays out in scenario two, where everything holds off until the evening. Again, we're going to have to wait and see. So questions, guys, I'll go ahead and take some. If you're going to ask specific locations, again, I'll go ahead and pull back the SPC map so you guys can see that a little bit better. So give me 1 second. I'll go ahead and pull this back up. There we go. So there is your severe map. In yellow is the slight risk, which is level 2 of 5. So there's 5 levels of severe. There's marginal, slight, enhanced, moderate, and high risk. So it's a level 2 of 5 risk. I would not be shocked if they upgraded the risk to an enhanced level 3 of 5, and that's going to be for wind. But again, the SPC mentioned that in their afternoon outlook, but we're going to have to wait to see some higher confidence before we introduce higher severe probabilities. See here, guys. Concert at Midland at 7. Yeah, well, if scenario 2 is your case, we may be dry. So again, it's a lot of uncertainty with these summertime setups, because the timing of these, what we call short waves, which is kind of like a trigger to get the storms up and going, it's always kind of up in the air. So we're gonna have to wait and see for tomorrow to kind of get an idea. Also, for the guys up in the UP, I don't know if anybody's watching from the UP, but there is a line of severe storms ongoing up there in the Marquette area. So we're going to be probably looking at that when we're all done answering questions. Currently 1 warning I see up there by Marquette, but yeah, that's for damaging wind gusts. So we'll have to kind of keep an eye on that through the evening. But yes, the overall severe threat tomorrow does appear to be pretty real. I would say there's a pretty good chance that southern Michigan sees some type of severe weather tomorrow in the form of wind. But again, I just don't have the confidence to say where the best potential or the higher potential could be at this point. Potential to be worse than yesterday, Eric. There's potential for it to be on par with yesterday. I'm personally, I'm pretty big on the wind threat tomorrow, just because I like the way the jet stream's oriented along with the large cape. These types of setups are pretty common in summertime, so once you get used to forecasting them, it's pretty easy to kind of see what you're working with. But yeah, tomorrow's threat is it's pretty good, I think. And again, that's going to be if the storms, it doesn't rain all day and this ability gets sucked out of the atmosphere. That's a possibility as well. But I think there's going to be enough juice, dependent or regardless, for these storms to ride off of. Could the storms in the UP make it to Metro Detroit tonight? No. The western part of the state, currently over by Grand Rapids North, is under a very low end severe risk. And right now, there's not much severe weather ongoing. So I'm going to say the overall severe threat for upper and western Michigan right now is quite low. The black color? What do you mean black color? This is for tomorrow, guys. This isn't for today. Jenny asks, if it goes to level 3, will that bump up the tornado risk? So the tornado threat right now on the models is quite low, just to the lack of low-level wind shear. It's about half of what we need at minimum to get tornadic spin-ups or anything like that. So we'll have to watch data tomorrow to kind of see what the actual wind shear is doing in real time. So right now, the overall tornadic threat is low, regardless if it gets bumped up or not. But it is a possibility, especially if we get a squall line later in the day that has plenty of instability out in front of it. Along the leading edge of that squall line, there could be a few spin-ups, but again, the overall threat is quite low tomorrow. The threat for tornadoes was much higher yesterday. And speaking of yesterday, we've had 2 confirmed tornadoes from yesterday, one in Jackson County and one in Livingston County. A potential third one being surveyed right now by the office in Indiana around the Somerset Center area. They're going to survey that and decide if that was a tornado or straight line winds. So we may have 3 in the state from yesterday. So good evening, Chris. Thank you for watching. Good evening, Chris. Number 2. We have 2 Chris's in chat. Caroline, if scenario 1, if the storms are ongoing in the morning crossing the lake, if the timing is closer to the afternoon time frame, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if those storms will start to strengthen. Although the preferred solution from the model suite at this afternoon was the storms will be decaying because the timing is going to be a little bit earlier than yesterday. So if they arrive, say 8 a.m. instead of noon, there's not much instability for them to work with. So the possibility is there just because we have the large cape in the morning, but the overall trend of the models say it's going to weaken through the morning hours if there are storms. Mary, the next SPC update will be at 2 a.m. So we have a couple hours yet. And then again, they update that at 9 a.m. and again at 12:30 p.m. and again at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So they have a couple more outlooks here for them to make some tweaks. The last time Michigan was in a moderate or high category, the last time I can think of, I believe, was 2020. We might have had one last year, but I want to say 2021, we had a moderate risk. I believe that just barely reached the western part of Michigan over by Kalamazoo area. Eric, we will be live probably around the 10 o'clock time frame, depending. I know a few of us are working tomorrow. I also have a couple people taking half days to chase. So we'll probably be live at 10 o'clock if there's anything to cover before then. But we're going to give an update right around 10 o'clock for you guys on the updated, how the day's evolving and stuff like that. Amanda, we if somebody's up, we'll post a forecast about 2 a.m. We can do that for you. We usually post that to subscribers, but we can post that for public this time around. John says we had a moderate last year. I wish I had a better memory. We may have. It's definitely possible. But the last one that I recall, I believe, was 2021. The time frame of these could be anywhere as early as 8 a.m. to as late as 7 p.m. The models are kind of all over the place with the setup, and there's a couple different scenarios that could happen. But I do think the west side of Michigan, at the very least, will see some type of rain or storms in the morning hours of tomorrow. The question is if they're going to be severe. There's a possibility they could be. Angel, you may get some rain there, potentially some storms as well. You're welcome to try rye for the cookout, but you're going to have rain chances pretty much all day. This is one of those weird setups where if I say you're going to have rain chances all day and scenario 2 happens and it remains dry all day, yeah, that could happen tomorrow. This could go either way. But the overall environment tomorrow is supportive of storms, rain, and also severe weather. It's just the timing of this and the whole scenario, how it works out, needs to be answered. We should have a better answer for you by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Taylor would be in the threat for all hazards, Sandy. There is a very low-end tornado threat for tomorrow, and Taylor would be right around that 2% tornado risk. And then timing on that, overall, the best timing for that is going to be in the late evening hours. So anywhere after 6 o'clock, we do expect the main squall line to form. So after 6 o'clock is going to be the highest severe potential. I do want to mention that. I don't think I mentioned that, but we do expect the squall line to form out in Wisconsin and push toward Michigan after the 6 o'clock time frame, and that would be the main severe weather event that we're going to be forecasting for. But again, storms are possible before then, and severe weather is possible before then as well. Anybody in that yellow on the screen there, St. Clair County, I see Flint asking, I see Lansing. Anywhere in that yellow area where I just mentioned Lansing, Flint, St. Clair, you guys are in the slight risk, which is the highest risk category for the setup. It could go enhanced tomorrow morning. We'll have to wait and see. But right now, that yellow area would be a pretty good. That kind of lines up with what we're thinking. At least with our forecast this afternoon, we kind of think right around the same areas, especially maybe a little bit further north, bump up a little bit further north, depending on how that complex forms out in Wisconsin. Yes, Melissa, there are plenty of scenarios with this setup. And this is pretty typical of summertime. A lot of these systems seem to creep up very quickly. I know there's a couple systems, or there's a system back in 2020, back out in Iowa, where the SPC had a marginal, so a low-end severe threat in place. It ended up being a historic derecho ended up occurring that morning. They had to upgrade from a marginal to a moderate risk. That was back a few years ago, and that just completely flattened corn silos for long miles into Illinois. I think parts of Indiana were affected by that derecho as well. The grayed out area is Canada on the map there. The slight risk is in yellow, the marginal risk is in dark green, and then the light green is just your ordinary thunderstorm risk. And then anything that's not in color is just either Canada or not in a severe threat. Eric, a high risk would be issued when either a significant tornado outbreak would occur or significant wind gusts would occur in a very large area. High risks are very rarely issued by the SPC. I think we only had one high risk in the past 10 years for Michigan, so they're very, very rare. Yeah, Taylor, honestly, Anita, Taylor could be as late. If that squall line forms later in Wisconsin, that squall line may arrive in Metro Detroit area after midnight. We hope not, but it could be one of those late night type of events. West side as early as 6, but the east side may be as late as midnight. We'll have to kind of wait and play out. June 13th last year in Southwest Michigan was awful. I need to refresh my memory what June 13th was. Give me 1 second. That date sounds familiar. I know we had quite a few risks on the west side last year. Yes, I guess it was a derecho here last year, June 13th. Peak winds 94 miles per hour. I can load that up real quick. Oh, wow. I'm seeing that summary now. That's intense. Okay. I'm not good with dates. I can remember your birthdays, but I cannot remember the severe event last year. That's my bad. What's up, Dan from Ingham County? Is that you're in a severe threat for tomorrow? Does May 20th, 2022 ring a bell? Oh, man, you guys are testing me tonight. No, it doesn't. Probably should, though. May 20th, 2019 rings a bell. That's the day that Oklahoma was expected to have an outbreak of tornadoes and nothing really happened. What's up, Julie? You didn't miss much, Julie. So the overall risk tomorrow is a slight risk. It could be upgraded to an enhanced when higher confidence of an area of higher winds can be expected. A couple different scenarios play. First of all, kind of like what we had yesterday, scenario one would be morning showers and the storms work through, and the second line comes in later in the evening. And then scenario two is nothing happens throughout the day. We're capped. Storms hold off until later in the evening, and that would be the best case scenario for severe weather, or worst case, depending on how you look at it. But overall, there's a lot of instability tomorrow. So no matter if we get storms in the morning, we should have plenty of instability for a second round of storms to push through later in the evening hours. And again, the timing on this could be as early. The main show timing is going to be around 6 in the west, and then potentially closer to midnight in the east. But we could have storms all day tomorrow. It's night and day difference with these models. Either we get nothing or we get rain all day and a severe threat behind all that rain. So Drew asks, if the first few waves of storms tomorrow trend on the weaker side, could the MCS be worse than yesterday's MCS? The answer, Drew, is yes. There is some better dynamics in place for winds along MCSs. Not only do we have a lot of downdraft cape, which to get microbursts going, a lot of downdraft winds, we do have some really good upper level support for this to become a significant wind producer. So if the instability is there, the potential for some higher end wind gusts are also there. The hail threat, Jackie, is on the lower end with this event. It's not zero. It's just not as high to like really get a mention going for it. You know, I wouldn't be surprised for, you know, up to quarter to ping pong again, but I don't think it's going to be a widespread hail event. So the cap is expected to break tomorrow, Al. Although the cap may limit storm intensity, it may become elevated, but still, you still have severe threats of hail and wind with that. But the cap may hold storms off in the afternoon, but as that trigger moves in toward the western side of Michigan, that cap will start to weaken. Possibly, Julie. The Metro Detroit area could be as late as midnight, so we'll have to watch and kind of see how it plays out. Main threats are wind, Holly. If you're in the central and southern parts of Michigan, April, it's about on par with yesterday. But if we have a setup where the instability is higher than it was for the second round yesterday, this round could be worse. Yes, heat will play a role in the storms. The heat and humidity will fuel very high instability values. So the instability will probably be the highest we've seen all year tomorrow. The tornado threat is limited to the very southern part of the state. So south of Grand Rapids, south of Lansing, south of Detroit, basically from I-96 south. Yeah, we just got power back on. Yeah, a lot of people lost power from yesterday and they're just getting it back. But again, there's potential for widespread outages again tomorrow. So Brandon, that's up to you, depending if you'd like to do that. Overall, the severe risk tomorrow is looking quite good, especially if we can keep our rain to a minimum in the morning. So I would say if you have storm anxiety, definitely pay attention to warnings, but don't stress about it too much. Just heed all the warnings and take shelter when the warning gets issued. Amber, there was no tornado in Taylor, but the winds yesterday in the Metro Downriver area was quite intense. Yeah, Nicole, a lot of people do have severe storm anxiety, and that's okay. We're here for you. We try to be live every severe event that we get, whether in the field or here running radar. So you can tune into us. We'll be live tomorrow, more than likely. Julie? What's wrong with your weather radio? Don't stress about it too much, but your anxiety will tell you otherwise. Yeah, I understand that. Amber, it does have potential to be worse than yesterday, but only if instability is higher than yesterday, because we have a lot of different scenarios that could play out. It could be on par with what we saw yesterday, but it also has potential to be a pretty big wind event. John, there was a video of a tornado actually in the Stockbridge area that was actually confirmed by the NWS today, as well as a second tornado in Livingston County that got confirmed today as well. And there's a third one being surveyed by the Northern Indiana office out in Hillsdale County, just on the border of Lenawee Hillsdale by Somerset Center. Right now, they're ruling it straight line winds up to 80, but they're going to analyze their data, all the pictures. Because there's some rotation on radar in the area, they're kind of concerned that there may have been a brief spin up there. So we'll have an answer on that area in the next day or two. Scenario one, Jessica, is we have rain and storms in the morning that prohibit more instability to build. But with scenario one, the instability is still expected to be sufficient for a second round later in the evening. So either way, severe is possible. Scenario two is where the cap holds the activity in the morning and early afternoon down, so more instability can build up, and then a second line comes through later on that's severe and has a lot of energy to work with. And if you had to ask me for my opinion, I'm going to tell you I have no idea. These setups are very unpredictable, so we're going to have to wait and see. Brandon, we do plan to be live tomorrow. I'm not sure who's all chasing. I'm not sure who can run home base, but if need be, I'll sit at home and do it myself. So I will at least, you'll have somebody here, whether it's me, Chandler, Joel, or Nick. Although Nick's on vacation, so Nick is out. So it's going to be either probably me or Joel, and maybe Chandler if he's not working or if he can pop in at work. Yeah, Grosse Point actually got hit pretty hard. There was actually a funnel cloud reported there. No survey that we know of was conducted, but from what we see from the pictures, it looks like a lot of heavy wind damage. Yeah, downriver area, anywhere from Taylor, anywhere south of Detroit there, and even north of Detroit along the Lake Erie shoreline there, it just got rocked. You guys were watching the live stream yesterday. I was in Lenawee County, just south of Blissfield, getting rocked by at least 60-mile-per-hour winds. Jake, you're not going to like my answer. So the timing for Grand Rapids is all over the place. Storms may hold off until the evening, but if I have to lean one way, I think you're going to see some type of rain on the west side in the morning. I'm probably going to say early to mid morning, right around the 8 to 10, 11 o'clock time frame. You're probably going to see some rain, but the main severe event is going to be focused later in the evening around 6 to midnight in the east. So severe weather is possible all day tomorrow just because the amount of cape we have, or instability, should I say. But again, the overall severe threat will be later on or the biggest severe threat will be later on in the evening. lot of people asking about their specific locations. So again, timing, I can't really answer timing. Severe weather is possible all day, but there's scenarios where we could have rain in the morning or we could have it be dry until the evening. So if you're in that yellow area, if you're in Sturgis, there's somebody asked about Sturgis. Let's see, Davison, Washington Township. If you're in that yellow area, you're going to be looking at the highest severe probability tomorrow. If I had to guess, if they had to introduce an enhanced, just pure speculation, it would be probably on that northern end of that yellow area. So from Mount Pleasant over to Detroit, probably a little thin enhanced area, but that's just my guess. We'll see what the SPC does. Coldwater, if you are south of I-94, you are in a low-end threat for tornadoes tomorrow, but it's a very low-end threat. So Coldwater, you'd be in that low-end threat, and timing for you on the main severe event would be probably closer to, 8 or 9. I really hate throwing out time frames again for this type of setup because it's uncertain. But it'll be early evening to late evening time frame for the west side more than likely. The SPC updates at 2 a.m. Yeah, I'd say it's too early yet for Flushing to give you a time frame. For the main severe event, again, early evening for the west side, early to late evening. And then if that works to the east-southeast toward Metro Detroit, you're looking closer to probably 10 to midnight. The heat index is another story tomorrow. The heat index in southwest Michigan will reach 105. If you are anywhere south of Grand Rapids and Flint, you're probably looking at right around 95 to 100 on the heat index. The actual temperatures will be in the low 90s for most of us, but the heat index with the humidity tomorrow is going to be pretty oppressive. So let's see here. More questions. Yeah, it is hot. Andrew, give me a county or a general area. I'm not really sure where Bear Lake is. I don't have my phone with me nearby either. So I look it up usually, but I tried getting on my phone speaker and it wouldn't work, and now I'm having issues with my phone. Straight line winds will be the dominant threat tomorrow, Tim. Manistee County, you're going to be in a low-end severe risk. The main squall line will probably be off to your south, but any pop-up storms that happen, you do have potential for severe weather. Mount Pleasant, you're in a slight risk, so you're in the highest risk that they have issued for tomorrow. You'd be right in the path of the highest severe threat. Brooklyn, same thing. Davison, same thing. Ingham County, same thing. You guys are all in the highest threat. And the only tornado threat in the state tomorrow currently issued by the SPC is right along the 94 corridor. So just to the south of Grand Rapids, angling south toward Lansing, all the way to Detroit. So essentially south of 96. Hillsdale County, Alexis, you are in the severe threat. Nicole says she's in the White Lake area. Yep, you're in a severe threat. Yep, so overall, the threat tomorrow is, if it plays out to where we have a lot of instability for that second line, it does have potential to be a more significant event for wind. The wind is going to be the dominant threat today, or tomorrow. I apologize. Today, there is a severe threat up in the UP today, but for tomorrow, this is the focus. It does have potential to be a higher end event. I think they will. Again, throwing out speculation. I hate doing this, but I really do think they will upgrade this risk for tomorrow. So if you wake up to an enhanced, I would not be surprised. Chances of tornado for Hillsdale, quite low tomorrow, Alexis. Very, very low, I'd say. Chances there, but the overall wind shear is not favorable for tornadic spin-ups. Not to say it's not going to happen. I don't want to rule out completely because the potential is there, but it's just not on the radar right now. Same thing to Tim there, asking about 94 corridor for tornadoes. The chance is there, but it is a very low chance. There's nothing in the wind shear that looks at, I see in the models right now that I look at and go, oh, wow, we could have a threat for tornadoes tomorrow. There's just nothing there. With these big squall lines, though, tornadoes can happen very quickly and spin up. So they also happen with a little bit, weaker dynamics as well. So you don't want to completely rule it off, but the overall setup is not favorable for tornadoes. Saginaw, if we're talking the second round here, if there's no first round, the second round would impact Saginaw, I'd say probably the 8 to 9 time frame. But timing on this is, if you ask 10 different meteorologists or forecasters, they're probably going to tell you 10 different things. It's one of those setups. Brandon said all he heard was brown pants south of 94. You're funny, Brandon. Could the threat increase up north toward Petoskey? So the overall severe threat up in Petoskey is quite low tomorrow. You're going to be mainly focusing on pop-up storms from the morning. There could be a couple alpha boundaries up there that fire off storms. So I'll have to watch those. But overall, if you get increased to a slight, I wouldn't be surprised. But right now, your overall threat is quite low. So I agree with the marginal low-end threat up there. We could have two, Tim. If you want severe weather, hope for clear skies in the morning. If you don't want severe weather, I mean, the best you can do tomorrow is just hope that it's raining all day, because that will inhibit instability. With that being said, guys, been on here 40 minutes. Any more questions? If not, I'm probably going to go ahead and switch over to radar scope here and take a look at what's going on right now. If you guys want to do that, go ahead and pull up my radar scope real quick. Only threat tonight is going to be in the UP in far western upper Michigan. So if I go ahead and pull up my radar, I see some guys asking questions. I'll get back to you here in 1 second. Let me pull this up real quick. So yeah, this is your severe storm currently up in Marquette. It expires in 6 minutes. It's basically just for 60 miles per hour wind gusts and below severe limit hail size. So just 60 mile an hour gusts. So that's up in the UP from Marquette. And that's moving east at 70 miles per hour. So that's really going at highway speeds there. So I'll leave that up here, zoomed into Marquette, and I'll get back to answer some of your questions here. Flooding, Ricky, great question. Flooding will be a concern tomorrow because some of these models are actually throwing out 4 or 5 inches of rain around the Metro Detroit, Lansing areas. If we remember tomorrow or yesterday, we've had a lot of rain. I don't know where my radar just went, but we had a lot of rain yesterday across the state. So flooding will be a concern tomorrow. Radar Scope has been bugging out lately. I'm not sure what's up with the computer version of Radar Scope, but it is just bugging for Nick too. See if that works. Hey, look, it's back. We'll have an update on the page. We'll probably go live around 10 o'clock tomorrow. It might be a little bit before then, 9:30, 9:45 potentially, but we'll go ahead and go live around that time frame. Why don't they issue storm or tornado watches more? What is the criteria? So really, the criteria is when atmospheric conditions are favorable for storms like that. But they can be favorable in such a small scale environment, like say right around Kalamazoo to Grand Rapids area. That's not a very big area, so they'll go ahead and issue like what we call an MD to say severe weather is possible. However, the threat is not expected to be widespread, so no watch issued. Something like that. Usually when you have a large-scale severe event that stretches across a large portion of the state or an area, you'll get a watch, as long as conditions are favorable for it. Julie, the answer to your question is we're in a pattern where, think of it where the United States is covered by the letter N. Inside that letter N, you have heat. And above and around that letter N, you have a jet stream where storms ride. So right now, Michigan is on the northern part of that N, where the storm systems are basically riding that what we call a ridge. That is why we're getting so many storms lately. A severe weather statement. I've never heard of a severe weather statement. We do have special weather statements and severe weather warnings, but I've never heard of a severe weather statement. That's not a product that I know of that is issued by the NWS. There is a chance, Adam, it could shift north slightly. Again, timing for you guys, it could be the main squall line we're focused on is going to happen early to late evening, and it could last in the eastern part of the state as late as midnight. That's going to be the main focus, but there is potential for severe weather earlier than that throughout the late morning, afternoon hours. So pay attention. But there also is, on the flip side, also is a threat that it could stay a threat, but also the possibility it could stay dry. Yes, Julie, once that ridge continues to move, that'll give us some better weather, I would assume. Although we're kind of in a pattern right now. You guys maybe wanting less weather, but again, with typical summertime patterns in the upper atmosphere, we may, if we shift out of this pattern, we may have more wildfire smoke come back in. So don't always, I mean, storms are bad. I know we have a lot of people here with anxiety for storms, but it could be worse with all the smoke around too. That is correct, Ricky. It's similar to what we call the ring of fire, where that ridge sets up and basically just shoots off short waves at us, where you have those storms riding that ridge. Very similar setup. Yeah, same, Julie. I would take storms over smoke. If they do issue an enhanced, would the Indiana bordering counties be in the enhanced? I think this is going to be a mainly Michigan event. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they do, but yeah, I think it's mainly going to stay in the central and southern parts of Michigan. I want to sing that song now. I fell into a burning ring of fire. Yep, Johnny Cash. The map is killing me. I want food from Marquette now. Well, there's Marquette. I'll zoom in out for you. There's Marquette. Just got plowed by severe winds. Look at those winds there. Those are really intense. The radar is right here, too. So those are really intense winds. Pretty close to the ground. If I pause this, run it back here. Check this out. Those winds are only 400 feet off the surface. If I use the inspector tool here, we're getting 66 miles an hour right there. So close to 65 miles per hour winds going through Marquette currently. Luckily, that's moved on. Most of it's moved onto the lake there, so that's good. But we do have some more areas of wind down here by Sands, Scandia. Man, I'm not familiar with the UP. Some of these names up here just kind of make me go, huh? Like, what is this? Awe Train? What? Christmas? Like, do we live in Michigan still? Like, what is this? I love the UP, though. Don't get me wrong. I just think some of the names up there are a little weird. Al, the threat tonight outside the UP is quite low. There is a marginal risk for severe weather in the far upper western part of the state, but right now, looking at the overall radar, I don't think it's going to make it that far. We do have one warning down here in Wisconsin. So if this crosses the lake, it's certainly possible that we could see something reach the western part of Michigan. So over here, Manistee, Ludington, Traverse City, Cadillac, Big Rapids. If anything's going to happen, you're going to be the first ones to get it. But overall, here you go. Here's the marginal risk here. If I go and take this full screen, you can see what I'm talking about here. So the marginal risk now extends in the green here, up here, all the way to Grand Rapids and over. So if you're in this very tiny sliver of the state, you do have some potential for some severe wind gusts tonight, but the overall threat is very, very low. Christmas has a casino? What? Hillsdale County, expect the main squall line to come through late evening, as it could be as late as 10, 11 o'clock at night, Alexis. Wagons north, Julie. We're going to the casino. Yep. Vacationing in Marquette right now. We have somebody from Marquette. How are the winds there, Katie? There's also a paradise and a hell, Michigan, Julie. We have everything here. We have paradise, we have hell, we have Christmas. Do we have an Easter, Michigan? Do we have how about a St. Patrick, Michigan? Having some fun here tonight. Casinos all over the UP. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised just because we have a lot of tourists up there. Whoops. Genesee County for tomorrow, you're looking late evening time frame for severe weather. I hate throwing out time frames, but the main squall line is kind of more confidence when that's going to occur. It'll start to form out in Wisconsin late evening. Lenawee County was crazy yesterday. What time, Ricky? Early afternoon, around 2, 3 o'clock, I was in Lenawee County with the storms, and yes, it was definitely crazy south of Blissfield. Yeah, so Sean, you're thinking of March 31st this year, and that's what really kind of jump-started our page. We had an enhanced risk, and the possibility of tornadoes that day was quite high. So it really got the attention of not only meteorologists, but us here at MSC. Had that day ended up differently, that could have been a very bad day for Michigan. The dynamics in place were insane for that day. But that morning round of showers that came across the lake, that really just kind of ruined the day for us. None of the models picked up on that until the day of. So the forecast ended up busting hard, but we're lucky it did bust hard, because that would be a dangerous situation for Michigan had that system actually produce tornadoes. The wind shear that day would be really supportive of significant tornadoes too. So again, we got lucky. Yeah, that'd be about the time as I was in just to the south of Blissfield there, Ricky. I was intercepting probably close to 65-mile-an-hour winds there. Macomb County, Wayne County. So if you guys, Metro Detroit area, Wayne, Macomb, Livingston, St. Clair Shores, those areas, you guys are looking later in the evening, closer to probably 10 to midnight for your severe threat tomorrow. However, there is a chance for severe weather all day. It depends on how the system plays out. It's going to be hard to give you specifics at this point. So. Katie says a lot of lightning. I'm terrified of storms too. Chances of the storms shifting north once it hits Lake Michigan, pretty unlikely. They'll continue on their east-southeast path. Any other questions, guys? Purple lightning. Are you sure that wasn't a transformer blowing up? Because when transformers blow up, those can be purple as well. Like a bluish purple. Hillsdale County for right now is in the clear, but for tomorrow there's a threat for severe weather, including a low-end threat for tornadoes, although again it's a low-end threat. The main threat tomorrow will be wind. More sun tomorrow, more storms. That's a pretty good rule of thumb. We also have a moisture feeding up as well. So the only wave instability will not be sun will not be the only wave instability tomorrow. But yeah, sun will help for sure. Specific times for Lansing, it's hard to tell. Severe storms are possible all day tomorrow, but we think the main severe threat will be later in the evening time frame, closer to the 8 to 10 o'clock time frame for you. Ricky, we are currently not hiring, but we are about to launch what we call a partner network, where if you have experience with chasing storms and you're willing to provide us content to use and stuff like that, you can apply and we'll go through, maybe take a test, stuff like that. That's about to launch. So we'll have that public here in the coming weeks. So, but right now we're currently not hiring. Really, it's not really a hiring process. We're all volunteers here. We don't get paid. So if you do join, you're not going to get paid. But, yep. Let's see here. All right, see you, Julie. Tomorrow's system does have potential to be more potent than yesterday in the wind aspect. The tornado aspect, tomorrow's threat is quite low in comparison to what we had yesterday. So again, the wind threat tomorrow does appear to be higher than what it is yesterday, especially if that second line looks to be moving into an environment that's highly unstable. So less rain in the morning, the better. How far north will the line stretch? So right now, are you talking about right now or tomorrow? The only area is going to see weather tonight is going to be, I'll go ahead and go over this one more time, from Petoskey in this dark green box over here in western Michigan. So from Grand Rapids up to Petoskey, you do have a low-end threat for severe weather tonight. Again, very low-end for wind. That's going to be from this area out here. Right now, there's only one warning on these, or is there two? There's actually two here. So, nope. Yep, that's two warnings on this. But again, looking at the velocities here, it does contain some pretty good wind gusts. If we look at look at that. That is some intense wind there. If we go ahead and pause that, this is in Wisconsin. Take the inspector tool and see what it's doing here. That's severe winds right there. 62, 64. Yeah, it's all along there. So all along that leading edge here, we have 60, 65 mile an hour winds. I got 67 in there. I don't know, but yeah, that's pushing toward Michigan. It will continue to weaken as the evening goes on. So this isn't expected to maintain, its strength. It's expected to weaken, but still some isolated severe wind gusts are possible on the western side of Michigan tonight. Again, from Petoskey down to Grand Rapids. Possibly, Joey. I think the main threat will be one round later in the evening, but isolated severe storms are possible throughout the day. So don't let your guard down. Muskegon, possibly storms tonight, but for right now, I'd say the threat for anything severe tonight would be low for you guys. So if you guys want to do a little bit of live analysis, we have some more models coming in. You guys want to look at some models with me? I have not looked at these yet myself. They just came out. The HRRR model being one of them. We have the NAM 3 coming out in about a half hour. So if you want to take a peek at those, let me know. Ricky says yes. All right. Everybody's saying bring the models. Yes, yes, yes. All right. Here we go. Give me a second. I'll pull it up for you guys. It's not completely loaded yet, but it's loaded enough to take a peek at it. Let me go ahead and get this up and going. All right, let's go ahead and stop sharing radar scope. Holy smokes, you guys want to see models. All right, give me a second, guys. Bear with me. We've done live analysis before, but I'm kind of nervous for this one just because a lot of information. Whoa. A lot of information is about to be unfolded here because a lot of data needs to be analyzed. This is one of a couple models coming in for the next couple minutes. We have the NAM 3 coming and at 10 o'clock, just after 10. Then we have a couple other models coming in after that too. So, all right. So the latest HRRR model, I have not looked at this, but I got a sneak peek of it. It looked pretty good. So this is current observations. You see that MCS out there in Wisconsin, Upper Michigan. Okay. That works its way into the northern part of Michigan tonight. And as you can see, that is expected to decay there. So again, no severe weather is expected up there. Maybe one or two isolated instances of gusty winds. And again, tomorrow, let's go ahead and take a peek. This is 12Z, which is 8 a.m. tomorrow. As you can see, this model has it completely dry. All right. This is 9, 10, 11. There's noon. So we're dry through noon, according to this model. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have storms starting to fire in Wisconsin at 3 to 4 o'clock. 5. And at 5 o'clock, we have a line developing right offshore of Lake Michigan there in Wisconsin. There's 6. It looks nasty. 7. We have isolated cells popping up in the central part of Michigan there, just above Bay City, Saginaw area. There's 8 o'clock. Wow. That is as far as the model is currently loaded, guys. Oh, there's a new one. There is 9 o'clock. That is some nasty squall line. That is insane. So that is one model. This model keeps us dry throughout the morning, which would basically mean that any severe threat later in the evening, especially if rain holds off, it would be quite intense. I'll put it that way. If we have no rain at all, instability will build all day. The atmosphere will be primed. So that is a very concerning situation there. I'll go ahead and wait a few more minutes. That model is not loaded out past 9 p.m. tomorrow night. So we'll go ahead and wait for this model to load itself up. In the meantime, though, let's take a peek at a few different ingredients. Let's look at instability here. So here's your surface instability. As we move into the evening time frames there, go ahead and see if we can get some clicks here. 3,000, 2,500, right around 2,000 surface-based CAPE on this model. And this model also has a tendency to be drier than usual. So we may actually see CAPE or instability values, a little higher than this. So right around 2,000 to 3,000 surface-based CAPE. To get severe storms, you're going to want to see CAPE right around 1,500 or higher. It can happen with 500 CAPE, but we like to see CAPE up above 1,500, closer to 2,000. So we have 3,000 to 4,000 surface CAPE. That's pretty good for severe weather. Let's take a peek at a couple other things. Let's go ahead and look at, ML Cape. This is your Cape up in the mix layer, they call it. This is for your hail growth zone as well as updraft sustainability. Oh yeah, we have plenty of ML Cape here. Let's go ahead and load that up. Yeah, 2,000. That's an insane amount of Cape, guys. So it's just not, it's a very, what we call fat Cape profile with this. We do have a lot of instability tomorrow. Let's look at 3 Cape here. 3 Cape is basically your updraft Cape. There's quite a bit tomorrow as well there. Not as high as it could be, but there's definitely is quite a bit there. So let's look at supercell composite. This is a mixture of instability and wind shear, as well as a few other things here to kind of get an idea of what the atmosphere is doing. Not too high there. So again, tornadic potential, supercell potential, not as high as it is the past couple of days, the past couple of severe events. So this mainly should be a pretty much a wind event here. So yeah, that is the model currently. So good Cape. We look at, I don't have a wind shear option on this site. I have to go to a different site for that, but we'll take a look at wind shear here in a second. But we'll go ahead and go back to the precipitation radar mode and wait for it to load up past 9 o'clock. So we go ahead and put it forward and keep it at 9 right there. There's 10, 11, and then there's a storms in Detroit at midnight. And then 1, and a secondary kind of line starts to develop back there in southwest Michigan there. So we'll have to kind of wait and see how it plays out, guys. But yeah, this is for tomorrow, not tonight. Those of you watching, this is for tomorrow. This is not live. This is not current. This is for tomorrow. Tornado risk tomorrow is low. I'm not sure I'll stay on here another half hour, but we have another model coming out in about a half hour we can look at. All right, let's see here. Any questions came in? Oh, you guys are pretty silent. This is tomorrow night. The picture you see on your screen is the model at 8 p.m. tomorrow. Excuse me, I had to sneeze there. Tried to mute myself. Any questions, guys? Does the app I use show PW values? So I can show you a PW value, but it's going to be a little bit more concerned or a little bit more complicated. So with PW values, you're going to get, there's no specific actual individual map for that. What I can do here is I go to the 00Z wrap model. I'll go back to 21Z here. And I go to and if I click, let's do this. I'll give you one here in a second. I'll tell you it's going to be close to 2, though. So PW values is your precipitable water, which is basically a measure of how much rain will fall, I guess, a good way to put it. How much rain is possible to fall in. It's hard to explain. PW is basically a measure of moisture in the atmosphere. I'll put it that way. When you get them above 1.5, 1.7 or so, that's when you have really heavy rainfall rates. When you get close to 2 and over 2, you have very, very heavy prolific rainfall rates. Let me stop sharing this one and share the other one for you. You guys are gonna look at this and you're gonna go, what in the world am I looking at? But if you can see it, down here in the very bottom, you probably can't see it, but it's right over here my mouse is. PW value says 1.44. I don't think that's quite accurate. I think it's going to be much higher than that. So if we go over here to the NAM model here, I'll pull something off the NAM. I'll tell you that'll be more accurate. The wrap seems a little bit dry there. Let's see here. If we can pull up the... Oh, check that out. I found it for you. Hold on. So the NAM actually does have a precipitable water value. I thought it was on the other site, but no, here you go. This is going to be your humidity, guys, tomorrow. So in the purples is your highest humidity, and then in the yellows are extreme. But check this out. This is 2 p.m. tomorrow. Your PW values are above 2, 2.3, 2.6. Now, the NAM does run moist. These are probably a little bit higher than what actually is going to happen. So right around the 2 would be a really good bet for your PW values there, Ricky. In the evening time frames, yeah, check that out. Look at those. So this is just looking at this map, you're going to have prolific rainfall rates. So flooding will be a big concern tomorrow. We're approaching 3 up here in the Chicago area. Yikes. Again, this model is probably overdoing these values, but yeah, it just goes to show you the amount of moisture we have in the atmosphere tomorrow. We do have a interesting day shaping up on Saturday too, although I think it'll be south of the state. There may be severe weather possible again Saturday. We're going to have to watch and see how that plays out. Those of you asking for a break, yeah, we would like a break here too. No, just kidding. We love storms. But after Saturday, it does appear to be a break for a minute. So we should be good on Sunday from any type of severe weather. But again, these systems tend to pop up very quickly. So we'll have to wait and see. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my model here so people don't get confused. I don't want them thinking it's tonight. I'll go and bring radar back up. And if we're still streaming here another 20, 30 minutes, I'll go ahead and pull up the other model for those of you who want to see that. But I'm not sure I'll be streaming that long or not. No warnings anymore in effect for that line. In fact, there is an outflow boundary there. Here's a good educational little tidbit for you guys. So on dying storms, they put out what we call outflow boundaries. You can see it on radar here very easily. Basically just means that the storm is decaying or dying and it pushes out outflow. And usually when you see that, that means the tornado threat is quite low, but also it could also mean more development out ahead of this because this boundary here can work to fire off more storms. If we actually zoom in here, yeah, there we go. You have some storms popping up right along that boundary. There you go. Very classic outflow boundary there. These can last up to 12 to 24 hours, and they can also be a focus and enhance wind shear on the next day. So if this boundary, for example, continues to work its way to the southeast, it's probably not going to make it across the lake, but if it goes, say, continues to move south here, and it'll sag somewhere in the area, say right here tomorrow, this area right here might be a focus for development of storms tomorrow. So those are really important to watch. So very interesting to see outflow boundaries now coming off these storms. And that's pretty classic too. So just one of the many mesoscale features we look for at severe weather forecasting and also just overall storm development. Ricky, yes, that is exactly what it does. So the outflow boundary works as basically a cold front. It's not as large as what a cold front is. It's pretty localized, but it can work to increase lift. It also, when the outflow boundary hits you, you'll feel the winds on the surface. It can be pretty gusty, but you'll know because it's very cold wind. I try, Diane. Flint tomorrow for time frame, you're probably looking at the latest model. You're looking later, closer to 9, 10 o'clock. Yes, Adam, looks like Muskegon will be hit pretty hard tomorrow night. Yeah, especially if we stay dry like the model is thinking. So let's see how it plays out. I know the other model this morning or this afternoon, should I say, the other model was really hinting at some widespread rain chances in the morning hours. So again, anything is possible at this point. We don't want to say too many specifics just yet, but looking at that latest model that we just looked at, it does concern me for tomorrow, especially for the wind threat. There were 4 areas of interest, actually. So the first area of interest was in Stockbridge area, and that actually got confirmed by the NWS today for tornado. It was an EF0. So that was number one. We had a second tornado a little bit east of that in Livingston County. It actually traveled just about 500 yards in Livingston County. So there's 2 up there. There was an area near Southfield that NWS is hinting that they may survey, but right now they're saying straight line winds for Southfield. And then another area near Somerset Center that was declared to be straight line winds, but in the text of the survey, they said data will be analyzed over the coming days to determine whether it was a straight line wind event or if there could have been some localized areas of rotation that may have touched ground. So they're going to look at data, go over the pictures, and decide what happened in Somerset Center. But yeah, two other areas looking at, but yeah, 2 confirmed so far. What's up, Gabe? Yeah, Livingston County got a tornado just like 500 yards into the county, so not a very long track into the county, but it did cross over the county border from Jackson to Livingston. Taylor, that is a great question. Great question. So PDS, destructive potential for tomorrow. If I'm going to stress this, guys, take this with a grain of salt. If we stay clear in the mornings, instability builds throughout the day as expected, and that stationary front, we have a stationary front, it's going to be right around the 94 corridor. If all those things come together, we could be talking some higher end wind gusts, and it could be a pretty prolonged event. So we may have a pretty long track wind producer tomorrow. So significant wind gusts are possible, especially, really stress say, only really if we stay dry in the morning and the afternoon and instability will build. That's the only way we're going to get those significant wind gusts, but the potential is there for tomorrow. Can tornadoes affect the lakeshore? Yes. So we actually have had 2 tornadoes in Michigan right along the lakeshore, one near Lexington and the Thumb, and another one by Detroit Beach. Both of them were literally less than a mile from the lake. So yes, tornadoes do affect lakeshore. If you're talking about Lake Michigan, Adam, waterspouts can come off Lake Michigan onshore. It has happened before. So that's a great question. The answer is yes. I think you sent that in, Ricky. I think you sent it in to us. I saw that picture. The daytime tomorrow is expected to remain dry according to the model we just looked at, but there is potential for there to be storms throughout the afternoon, so it could go either way. There is a severe threat all day tomorrow. If the storm pops up, it has potential. But the organized system we're watching comes later on the evening. It's just going to matter if there's going to be instability for it. But again, any storm in the lower peninsula of Michigan tomorrow has potential to be severe. I wish I could give you specifics, Gage, but when you guys ask us these specific questions, it's really hard to analyze and predict it. So what you need to know is you have potential for wind gusts up to 60 to 70 mile per hour tomorrow. I can't tell you if it's going to hit your house or not. If we could, there wouldn't be a need for forecasting like this. It's not specific. It's not exact science, but you do have potential to be impacted tomorrow by the storms. I do as well. I've been in a pretty precarious situation chasing storms at night, but we'll be okay, guys. We'll be live here as long as it takes. Being that this threat tomorrow is later on in the evening, what's probably going to happen is I'll be streaming probably to start with. Nick is out of town. I'll probably have either Chandler or Joel take over the stream. And then as it moves in toward Metro Detroit, I'll probably jump in my truck and go north. So we're going to have chasers out yet tomorrow. It's just we're down a person. Nick is usually our stream guy, so we're going to be down our stream guy. So he deserves his vacation, though. He's been working hard. Shout out to Nick if you're watching this. I think he is watching this. All right, let's see here. St. Joseph County. If you're asking about St. Joseph County, you're clear tonight, but tomorrow you're in a severe risk. Yes, Ricky, it does. We're glad we can help you, Jennifer. That's what we're here for. The low level shear for tomorrow is below 15 knots. So to get tornadoes, you want to have that closer to 20 to 25 knots in the first kilometer, and it's about half of what we would like to see. The SRH is the spin, storm relative helicity. When you have values over 150 to 200, you could be talking spin up tornadoes, you could be talking tornadoes in general. But tomorrow on the models, it's only really predicting right around 50 to 80 1 kilometer SRH. So the lowest level of the atmosphere are lacking in that wind shear. So that's why we're not too concerned for tornadoes. But if you wake up tomorrow, look at some real-time data, look updated models, and go, oh, well, there's an increase. We have 150 in the first kilometer now. We're going to say, all right, so we're going to have potential for isolated tornadoes. But right now, it doesn't look like it's going to be a tornado threat tomorrow. Ann Arbor, Livingston County, yeah, you guys would be, or Washtenaw, Livingston, you guys are included in the slight risk for tomorrow. And looking at the model that we just looked at, I would not be surprised if they went ahead and did the enhanced risk at the 2 a.m. update. Yes, we went over this earlier. And again, yes, the answer is 100% yes. The instability tomorrow will be probably the highest we've seen all year. The amount of heat and humidity we're going to have to fuel these storms will be quite insane. You're going to walk outside, it's going to feel oppressive. You're not going to want to be outside. Yeah, there's a potential to go enhanced there. Yep. Let me see if that model's updating it. It might be. Yeah, it's just starting to come in. So might as well stay on here, look at this model. I'll wait about 5-10 more minutes for pulling it up, though. But we do have the NAM 3 loading up. So we'll wait 5-10 minutes for that model for those you want to stick around and look at that. And my cat's joining me. What's up, Pibby? Pippi. I think all of the MSC staff here have cats. A lot of you guys are Oscar fans. One of Chandler's cats is on stream a lot. Likes to stream bomb, as we call it. Storms tonight. So looking at the model, you're going to see the storms currently. And you can see that outflow boundary on this one. So the storms are weakening for one, but also firing off some new storms too. So these may, I don't think it's going to become severe, but they have potential to cross that lake there and produce some gusty winds for you guys on the western shoreline areas. If you're in the counties closest to the lake, you have a potential all the way down to Grand Rapids tonight. But overall, a severe threat for that is low. There's no warnings currently in effect, but we'll see how it does over the lake here as it moves into the western shoreline of Michigan. Show us the cat. She walked away now. Pippi, if I can get her back, I'll show her the cat. I'm also streaming in the dark here. I don't have light on me. A lot of people asking if they could increase the risk. The answer is yes. They did hint at it at the afternoon update that they could have a higher potential for severe storms if they had a higher confidence of coverage and a specific area to upgrade. But right now, or at that time, I would say they didn't have the confidence to do that. But with the models this afternoon and evening that this came out, I would say the confidence is there to go ahead and increase. But again, only if the morning stays or looks to stay dry. Jonathan asking from Northwest Indiana. So there is potential for Northwest Indiana tomorrow. So yes, the answer is yes. The highest appears to be along the 96 corridor in Michigan all the way south to the border of Indiana. So we'll have to watch our friends in northern Indiana closely. So this model loads fairly slow. It's out 1 hour. So it's got a little bit of a ways to go here before you can look at it. But we do have the regular NAM loading up. It's 12 hours out currently. But right now, I would definitely... I mean, this model here has a staying dry too on the NAM. Although, I don't want to get too far in depth here. But there's different... You hear us talk about the NAM model where there's different types of NAMs. There's NAM 12. There's NAM 3. There's a couple other NAMs as well. It's part of the family. I was just told. I just learned this today. It's actually part of a family of different models, but essentially the NAM 12 is a midterm or mid-length model. It goes out 84 hours. And the NAM 3 is more so what we call a convective allowing model. So it simulates radar for us, basically. So the NAM 3 is the one I want to look at because it'll simulate radar. The NAM 12 does simulate radar, just not to the perspective of the NAM 3 does. It's quite confusing. I don't want to confuse you guys, but we have different models for NAMs, and just it is confusing. I'll just shut up before I confuse people more. Pippi, if I can grab this cat real quick. Pippi, and she gone. I tried. She's usually pretty friendly. She's scratching her claws. Pippi, come back here, Pip. The tornado threat tomorrow in Flint is quite low. In fact, there's no threat currently from the SPC. The only tornado threat tomorrow right now is along the 94 corridor down in the southern part of the state. So Taylor, the difference between radars, basically the only difference between the models simulating radar is just each model's algorithm is different. Some have biases, some have tendencies. HRRR is usually drier. The NAM 3 is usually more moist, but the only difference usually is the NAM 3 likes to be south of the HRRR. Pippi, come here, Pip. Try and grab this cat for you guys. I'm really trying. Come here, Pip. She's gonna walk away from me. All right, whatever. Each model indicate or fire. I'm trying to explain the models. It's hard to understand, but they're formed off different algorithms, and each algorithm has different outcomes. So one model is not the same as another, but when they're in agreement, that's a good thing. Pip is short for Pippi. The weather tomorrow in St. Joseph not looking good. For right now, it's not, especially if this model we just looked at is true. It's definitely looking like it could be. Nick just popped on here. I'm not sure what he wants here, but yeah. So the model that we looked at comes to fruition tomorrow. It's going to be a pretty significant wind event for much of the central and lower part of the state. Joey, for the wind, it does have potential to be worse than yesterday, yes. Yes, Pippi Longstocking. There you go. Let me see if I can't grab her. She's laying down behind me. Give me 1 second. See if I can't grab her real quick. All right, I got her. Get the camera on here. There she is. There we go. Say hi, Pip. You're famous. Yeah, she's a floof. She is a floof. Ugh. All right. I can make your day, Renzo. She's a very cute cat. She's also very well behaved. Very often does she puke or get into stuff she's not supposed to. She's very lovey-dovey. Like she'll come up to you and just want pets, but she's a great cat. You just missed it, Jade. We just showed Pippi on stream. All right, let's go ahead and check back on the NAM model and see how it's loaded here. It is loaded out to the 7 hours now. So it's loaded up basically to the equivalent of 3 a.m. So I have to wait a little bit longer for that. I'm waiting just as anxiously as all you guys, so bear with us. Bear with the models. In the meantime, though, I will go to a different website because the website I use to look at radar is easier to stream from, but there's also a different site that I use. We can pull what we call forecast soundings. Basically gives us a profile, an x-ray, as we call it, of the atmosphere. And I'm curious to see what the new wind shear looks like in the lowest level on the evening model here. So I'm going to look at that really quickly. I'm not going to show it on screen here. Just take my word for it. But go ahead and load up the HRRR. Hit Michigan. And the reason I don't like using this site on stream is because it's so slow. If Pippi was going to a campground tomorrow afternoon in Kalamazoo, would you let her go? The afternoon, yes. Evening, might get rocky. If you have a shelter you could shelter in besides a camper or a tent, I say do it. Just make sure you get inside a sturdy shelter when the storms roll through. This model is still loading up for me. I do not like using this site. There it goes. Let's go ahead and zoom forward here to we'll go ahead and put up here. Heat index tomorrow looks to be right around the 100 for the southwest side of the state. We have temperatures looking into low 90s to mid 90s, especially true if you're in Battle Creek, Kalamazoo areas. Let's go ahead and click on severe weather. Bulk shear 1 kilometer. Load. All right, well, that's loading up. The new NAM model is now loaded out to 9 hours. So at the 5 a.m., guys, we're at 5 a.m. It looks like bulk shear with this is still quite minimal. Go ahead and pull Supercell Composite here. See what it says here. So areas south of 94 does have a little bit better wind shear in the lowest level, but yeah, 92 SRH when you really want to see 150 to 200 or higher, 92 isn't going to get it done. 4,400 surface cape. That is insane amount of instability. Surface winds are out of the south though, so we could be talking a few spin ups, but I don't think the shear is there for it. So yeah, stayed pretty much the same with the tornado risk being on the low end of things. Let's go ahead and pull one more sounding at 9, just ahead of that line. This is going to be from Battle Creek. A little better. It's 121 SRH, but still, I want to see that closer up around 200 or higher. So nothing really. PW value is close to 2. It's going to be raining hard, so it's going to be really high precip. So yeah, I would say a very, very low risk for tornadoes tomorrow. All right, back to chat, guys. If you're asking questions, I'm not seeing them, but I will look at them now here. Let's see here. Potential timing, Holly. So potential timing for the main line of storms will be after 6 to 7 o'clock in the western side of the state and around 10 to midnight in the eastern side of the state. So if you're in the eastern side of the state, it'll be a little bit later at night for you. Wind is going to be a primary threat. I would say a very, very low end tornado threat in the south part of the state. Do I use Pivotal for models? I do use Pivotal occasionally for soundings because the site I use called COD, College of DuPage, doesn't offer soundings for the HRRR. It's only offered on Pivotal. So I basically use Pivotal for soundings and I use COD for everything else. Who names a cat Eric? I have no idea. It's a cute name, though. I wouldn't name my cat that, though. Time frame for Lansing, say right around the 8 o'clock time frame for you guys. Again, people asking for the upgrade is possible, especially looking after the HRRR model. Certainly possible. Yeah, the threat for tomorrow, spin up tornadoes, is very low. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen just because it's possible, but the ingredients there really aren't there for it. We've seen weirder things happen. We had a couple days a few weeks ago, really just kind of come out of nowhere and be like, oh, well, what's going on with all these supercells popping up in Thumma, Michigan? And there was like still no shear. And yeah. Don't want to write it off completely, but the overall dynamics for tornadoes tomorrow is very, very low. Alrighty, guys. Take a peek at the NAM3 here and see how it's loading. Fox 2 is confusing me, not showing much at all. Are they trained to keep us informed? Aren't they trained to keep us informed? I have no idea. I don't speak for Fox 2 or any of the Detroit stations. I can just tell you what we see on models, and what we see on models is quite concerning for tomorrow. So could do without the wind. Storms yesterday blew my desert rose plant from the back porch to the front of my apartment building. Yeah, the winds yesterday were pretty insane. Jordan, the main threat tomorrow will be the wind. I would say hail is a secondary threat, although, again, not very large hail threat. Isolated hail events over 1 inch are possible, but I think it's mainly going to be a wind event. And then tornadic threat is low. Appreciate that, Nicole. Take a peek at the new model here and see if it's looks like it's loaded out to right around 12 hours now. All right, go ahead and switch over here to the model. So all right, so about 14, 15 hours now. So we're at 11 o'clock tomorrow, guys. And so far, it is remaining pretty much dry. So if these models are onto anything, if we stay dry in the morning, we're going to have a decent severe threat come in for tomorrow. See if I can pull this up. I see a few more questions here I want to answer while I wait for that model to load up completely. It's still not out to the evening hours, so I'll let it load a little bit more. So, question for storm anxiety, Nicole. There's a lot of people who ask us this question, and there's quite a few different answers we could give you. The first is number one: storms that are severe very, very rarely will physically hurt you unless you are caught outside in them. If you are indoors, your threat to be injured by it is very, very low. And sometimes that'll calm people down. In forms of tornadoes, again, one tornado hitting your specific area, the chances of that are like 1 out of 1,000 or 1 out of 10,000. It's very low chance. In the event it does happen, because you have storm anxiety, I'm going to tell you this, you're probably very well aware of what's happening. You're probably very in tune to the warnings. As long as you take your precautions, you're going to be just fine. Okay? If you have a way to receive warnings that is not on your phone, that's a great thing. Although there's a lot of people who also say having a weather radio is also a very beneficial tool, because if you're worried about sleeping and there's a severe storm coming, the weather radio will save you from that. It'll alert you. It'll wake you up. Trust me, it is loud. It'll wake you up. So if you're worried about sleeping through a severe storm or getting your house hit by a tornado while you're sleeping, if you get a weather radio, you'll be fine. I know anxiety is really hard to deal with in general, but the chances of you getting physically injured from a storm is very, very low. As long as you are inside in a car away from windows, you are more than likely 99% of the time going to be fine. So again, for people asking for the recap is quite simply put, we have an increasing threat for severe weather tomorrow. The models are keeping the morning dry currently. Again, we'll have to wait until the morning to kind of see how it plays out. But if the morning does remain dry, we're going to have a significant event for wind late evening time frame, 6 to 7 on the west side, midnight on the east side. Wind is your primary threat, and then hail is your secondary threat. Tornado threat is very low. That's your recap. We do have a couple scenarios possible, but right now these models are keeping the morning dry, so we'll have to watch and see if that is the case. All right, great question. So those of you who are interested in purchasing a weather radio, number one, we do give them away on our photo contest. So every season, fall, spring, summer, winter, we host a photo contest. We give out T-shirts, we give out weather radio, stuff like that. We actually just partnered with Midland. They're going to supply us chasing radios for us while we're out chasing, and they also gave us a few weather radios to give away. So that's one way, but also, honestly, the best way to do this is go out to Amazon, search Amazon weather radio. The model number is WR120, WR120. The best weather model, the best weather radio on the market, hands down. Yes, you can buy them on Amazon. You can get it shipped 1 or 2 day shipping. You have it sometimes even the day of. I know a lot of Amazon facilities are going to same day shipping. So you may be able to order it tonight and get it in the morning if you're lucky. Depends on your area. But for those of you who don't have one, it's a really good $30 to spend. Tornado threat is low, Jordan, for tomorrow. Nicole, you live in a mobile home too? Yeah, I understand that. Mobile homes, in the event of a tornado for mobile homes, if you have time to get to a more sturdy shelter, do it. That could be a Starbucks, that could be a gas station. If it's a brick gas station, a lot of gas stations could be also like a barn type of material. Avoid those gas stations. But just if you're close to a town, even a Walmart would be a good place for you. Anywhere that's a sturdy shelter from there. If you don't, again, the chance of a tornado hitting your exact location is still quite low. It does happen. Of course, it happens. People are affected, every year by them. But if you're in a mobile home, the best course of action is to get to a sturdier shelter. And again, even if you get stuck in a mobile home, center part of your house, that's completely acceptable. The Midland Weather Radio is $32 on Amazon last I checked. So yeah, about $35 on Amazon. That's a great investment to have. Yes, Ricky, great point. Not all storms are severe weather producers. A lot of severe storms that are warned are not severe producers. It is mainly radar indicated. So a lot of these warnings get issued because the radar indicates that the wind is very intense. But again, radar beams are a few thousand feet off the ground usually, I should say, a few thousand feet off the ground. So it may not always be making it to the surface, but a lot of times these warnings actually, I'm not going to say are just precautionary because they're issued for a reason. But a lot of times you're not going to get these widespread events where everybody sees severe weather. The chance of severe weather usually hitting your location are quite low at any given time. Michigan is not one of the biggest places for tornadoes. That is true. We have been lacking in tornadoes the past couple of years. That's a good thing. Our usual average count is 16 per year. And lately we've been averaging between 5 and 10, although we haven't had, I think 2020 or 2022, we only had one, or I think one of the years we had 0. So it's been a pretty quiet stretch of severe weather, luckily, but this year seems to be ramping back up. We have at least 5 in the state so far. I want to say 6 now for the year. Let's see here. Weather radio app on my phone. Yeah, that's awesome to have. Generally, would a large interior closet or bathroom be safer? So if you're in a mobile home or any particular structure, like a house, the best part of your house is the center part of your house away from windows. Closet is a good choice. Bathrooms are also a good choice because the pipes go down to the ground. It has a better chance of not getting lofted if your house does get hit by a tornado. But away from windows and center part of your house, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. If you have to be near windows, grab a blanket, cover yourself. All right, guys, I know a lot of you probably waiting for the model here. We're going to hop onto the model. I know we have a lot of people still asking questions here. I'll just go ahead and get to the model because we have people waiting for that. The model is now loaded out through the evening time frames, and boy, does it look nasty. All right, let's take a peek at this, guys. Before I do that, I want to look at one thing. I want to pull a sounding on here just to verify. So the overall threat does appear to be increasing. I'll go ahead and stop sharing my radar and present this tab here. Excuse me. Again, the low-level shear, I'm looking at a sounding. Low-level shear tomorrow, I see 16 SRH. We want 200 of that. So good on the tornado end. Looks to be very, very low on this model. But check this out, guys. So this model as well keeps us dry. This is the NAM 3. But watch what it does here. This is the current observations. You see that squall line up in the UP in Wisconsin. a little bit behind there. It's a little bit further ahead. So it's running at just a tad bit slow. As that crosses, dies out over the lake, impacts maybe a little bit of western Michigan. Now, this is the morning. This is 8 a.m. As you can see, nothing showing on the models. This is 10, 11. This is noon. Still nothing. 1, 2, 3, 4. You have some pop-ups over by Detroit here. Continue going 5, 6. We have storms firing in Wisconsin. More storms firing in Kalamazoo, Detroit. 7, 8. Check this out. Isolated cells popping out ahead of the line. This is 8 o'clock. 9. 1 line, 2 line. 10. 11. 12. This is midnight. 1, 2. So this is running a bit slow. So this is probably about an hour or two slow. So storms will probably clear the state still around midnight, according to this model. But this look right here, that is insane. If that congeals into a line, we have 2 lines. That'd be even more concerning. Again, take this with a grain of salt. These are just models. This isn't going to happen. This isn't guaranteed to happen. But with these 2 models really picking up on this dry trend in the morning, severe threat in the evening, this could be quite a concerning day for wind gusts in central and southern Michigan. And at this point, I would expect SPC to go ahead and bump that risk up to an enhanced risk just because the amount of wind shear we have in the upper and mid levels and the amount of instability we have. This would be a pretty concerning event. I wouldn't be surprised if they add a area for significant wind gusts at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if they put a hatched area in there for wind. It just looks like a pretty. If it stays dry, again, we may wake up and there could be storms. If you guys wake up and see storms, you can kind of see what we expect or what we deal with these storms, with these models, should I say. We have these models saying we're going to be dry. The guidance saying we're going to be dry in the morning. We wake up, there's storms. It's frustrating because the forecast is wrong at that point. But right now, if it stays dry in the morning, by late afternoon, the evening time frames, we're going to be dealing with a pretty significant severe weather risk. So I'm going to highlight that. So again, the areas, again, of interest are going to be right along the 96 corridor from Saginaw, Muskegon, and south. So if you are Saginaw, Muskegon south, it looks pretty much in line with the latest models. I would expect them to go enhanced at the 2 a.m. outlook. And yeah, that is pretty concerning there for tomorrow evening across central and southern Michigan. That's not a good look if you don't want severe weather. So, all right, a lot of questions still coming in here. Yes, strong tornadoes are very rare in Michigan. Usually our tornadoes are EF0, EF1. That's very true. Gaylord wasn't EF3 back in 2022. Yes, that is very true as well. It actually killed a few people as well. Amy, it is not expected to fall apart, I am sorry to say. Again, this is for tomorrow night. This is not for tonight. This does have a lot of potential, especially with the latest outlook here, latest guidance from the models. This does have potential to be a more significant event for wind than yesterday's storm was. This does appear to be more widespread, so I wouldn't be surprised if they issue an enhanced risk. But yes, this is looking like a pretty gnarly day shaping up. We'll have an update for you guys about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. I'll schedule the live stream for about 9:30, but it might be a little bit before or a little bit after. So keep an eye on our page there. We'll have a forecast update and discussion posted as soon as we can. But yeah, this is a growing concern here for severe weather tomorrow night with these latest models coming in. So if it stays dry, that's going to be very, very concerning in the morning. With that being said, guys, I'll go ahead and share my radar screen again. We do have some weather occurring. Nothing severe at this time in Michigan. We'd have some severe storms earlier up in the UP near Marquette. But right now, it looks to be pretty much died down. We had that outflow boundary still visible on radar here from that storm. So again, a weakening trend continues. So if you're on the western side of Michigan from Grand Rapids up to Petoskey, you should be good for the night. Just some rumbles of thunder, maybe a few gusty winds in some places, but should be about it. So with that being said, guys, I'm probably about to hop off here if I don't see any more questions. The EF4, EF5 tornadoes are very, very rare here in Michigan. I don't recall the last day we had a significant tornado like that, but they're very rare. The Gaylord EF3 was the last highest tornado rating that we've had. Before that, I want to say it was an EF2. I know Dundee was an EF2 back in 2010. Trying to think. We may have had a few EF2s between now and 5 years ago, but I can't recall them. But yeah, for those of you still in here, we're just going to probably chill for a little bit longer, maybe 5-10 more minutes, and probably going to hop off here and do some work for our subscribers, getting those updated. And again, if you are interested in getting updates more rapidly, we do offer subscriptions on Patreon and Facebook. We do post forecasts before we post them to the public. We do offer exclusive content as well on there as weekly severe weather forecasts posted on Sunday. And also we do winter forecasting when the time comes. We do winter storms and stuff like that as well. So we do offer a whole plethora of services for our subscribers. So if you're interested in getting more updates than what you see on our page, you are more than welcome to become a subscriber. Ricky, great point. EF2 in Dexter back in 2013. Or was that 2012? That was 2012. That was actually an EF3, I want to say. I don't think that was an EF2. That was an EF3. Thank you, Diane. She recommends our subscription. Yeah, we post before we post them to our forecast, go up to our subscribers about 3 to 4 hours usually in advance. There are some times where it's time sensitive, like on the morning of. We'll usually post it public before we post it to subscribers. They'll get it at the same time. But in the days in advance, you'll get discussions, scenarios, stuff like that. And then when the morning of comes, we try to get subscribers updated in the night, as well as the SPC outlooks when they come out. So Nicholas, so yesterday in Somerset Center, so the NWS from Northern Indiana, because they have Hillsdale County covered, they came up today and surveyed that area, and their survey showed a microburst up to 80 mile per hour winds. However, they are going to analyze their data in the coming days to see if an area of rotation did occur. And because there was rotation on radar at the time, it wasn't very tight rotation, but it was enough to kind of catch your eye. And because the damage path is so localized, it seems to be more so leaning personally toward a quick spin-up tornado. But again, the NWS right now has ruled it straight line winds for microbursts, but they do indicate that'll be updated here in the next couple of days. So pay attention if you're that curious. They'll update it. We'll post it on our page as well once data is released. But yeah, it could have potentially been a tornado, but right now it's ruled winds. QLCS, MCS, and derecho mean different things. Yes, it does. QLCS is a longer tracked squall line. MCS is a little bit bigger than a QLCS. MCS is mainly wind. QLCS can have tornadic spin-ups. Derecho can have both tornadic spin-ups and wind, but it goes on for 240 miles and is severe all along its path. So they all mean different things, but they all kind of are the same thing with the wind squall line type of thing. But they do have different classifications. Yes, Troy, Dexter was an EF3. I thought it was. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and hop off here real quick. So if you guys have any more questions, feel free to message the page. or go and leave a comment. I'll try and get back to them. But for right now, again, severe threat does appear to be increasing for tomorrow. The winds are going to be a big concern. But again, we'll have to wait for new data in the morning to get a better feel for it. The models right now expect it to stay dry across the morning. If that's the case, we'll have a higher and severe threat tomorrow. Again, wouldn't be surprised to wake up to an enhanced risk from the SPC. So yeah, the gist of it. And that's all I got for you guys. So again, thanks for watching. Hit that like button before you leave. We'd appreciate that. And that'll be it, guys. Thanks for watching.